Welcome to the third virtual session of STEM for Girls Summer Summit 2023. I am thrilled to be joined today by Avionics Instructor Melissa Barton. But like I said, this is the third one, so if you did happen to miss the other two, you can find them on our YouTube channel as well as within our virtual classroom. So that was geologist Kelly Stone joined us and talked about how geology and space works together. And then only about 2 weeks ago, we had meteorologist Ashley Brauweiler talking about her experience with the studying the atmosphere. In about 2 weeks' time, we will have connection with an astronaut on the International Space Station live. We do not yet have the exact date or time, but it will be the week of August 21st. And that's simply because NASA has a lot on the go. We will get the date hopefully next week, so just keep on watching our social channels and hopefully you can tune in for that. While we meet today on a virtual platform, I would like to take a moment to acknowledge the importance of Indigenous peoples of all the lands that we are on today and which we each call home. I would like to acknowledge that I am joining today from the ancestral homelands of the Beothuk, and we acknowledge with respect the diverse histories and cultures of the Beothuk, Mi'kmaq, Innu, and Inuit of this province. Today does happen to be International Day of Indigenous Peoples 2023 under the title Indigenous Youth as Agents of Change for Self-Determination, reivindicating the role that Indigenous youth must occupy in decision-making while recognizing their dedicated efforts in climate action, the search for justice for their people, and the creation of an international connection that keeps their culture, traditions, and contributions alive. Through our own journeys of truth and reconciliation, may we support Indigenous peoples here at home and throughout the world. During Summer Summit, we are drawing for hoodies. So at the end of today's session, there will be a QR code for either of these hoodies rather. So if you are the lucky winner, you will get to choose between the white logo on the black hoodie or the white hoodie with the colored logo. So stick around to the end for that opportunity. And before we dig in, I do want to preface our conversations today by saying here at WRDC, we have an inclusive definition of women and girls, and we welcome anyone joining us today to learn from our role models working in STEM sectors. So you can read through this if you like. It's just our inclusive definition. WRDC is a provincial nonprofit organization committed to increasing the participation in technology and skilled trades. And we offer a variety of programs and services, the first of which is, of course, our STEM for Girls programs. We do career exploration, education, and outreach. We also have career development and employment assistance services for women and gender diverse individuals, gender equity and diversity and inclusion consultation services and training for employers, and research, collaboration, and partnerships with key stakeholders to identify solutions to challenges commonly identified by women in trades and technology. STEM for Girls is made possible by strong community partners, sponsors, and role models. These amazing companies support this program because they know their investment in girls and gender diverse youth is an investment in STEM innovation. It takes a community to create lasting change. Reach out if you would like to join as a partner or become a role model and help us break the cycle of women being critically underrepresented in these fields. If you aren't a member yet and are a girl or gender diverse youth within the province of Newfoundland and Labrador, in junior high and high school, generally ages 11 to 18, then register today. Scan this QR code or go to stemforgirls.ca and register free of charge thanks to those wonderful sponsors. And now with that said, I am happy to hand it over to our role model today, Melissa Barton, Avionics Instructor with the College of the North Atlantic's Aircraft Maintenance Engineering Technician program in Gander.
So yeah, I guess a little bit about myself. So not so much directly space related, but space is in the air, and I deal with aircraft and aerospace. So when it comes to aircraft maintenance, it's mostly airplanes or helicopters. You could kind of do either one, whichever one you're interested in. Our school here, we actually have a helicopter hangar in the school and an airplane hangar. So if anybody is in the Gander area or ever would like to do a tour, you can reach out and I'd be more than happy to take you guys up to the school and show you around. Everything is open. You want to get in the helicopters, get in the airplanes, look at the engines. Yeah, it's designed to treat it like a real life hangar. So we don't have any spaceships there or rockets or anything cool like that, but we have the next best thing. So I went to school. I'm from Gander and I went to school here. It's a 2-year program to become an aircraft maintenance engineer. Once you finish that program, then you work for 2 years and you write your license and then you become a licensed engineer. So unlike most trades where you go to school and then you work for a little bit and then you go back for a bit and then you work and you go back. It's more of you punch your 2 years and you get out working, you write one exam after those 2 years, and then that's it. You hold your license. So for me, I finished school. I worked on airplanes for a couple of years. If you can see in the slide, it says that I have my E license. So that's like an electrical license. So I do the wiring and that type of thing. I worked on helicopters with Cougar helicopters for a couple of years. And then I started at the college. So I've kind of seen all sides of it. I don't know, it's pretty cool. It's interesting. You get to work on the airline side, and most people, I guess, unless they grew up or they have friends or family that are maybe pilots or work in the industry, the only time you're ever on an airplane is as a passenger. So you get to see both sides, and it is really cool. So as an instructor, if anyone is ever interested or went that direction, you would have me for part of those 2 years. There's actually about 9 of us who instruct. So because it's an airplane or a helicopter and it's so broad, even in Newfoundland, for example, so we have PAL and EVIS, and then we also have Jazz and Air Canada. You have tiny airplanes and then you have really big airplanes. So you can't really specify when you're teaching or trying to show somebody a specific example. So there's so many of us to give you a broad range of what it is and what they had to learn and fix it and just get comfortable with it. I have 2 boys, so I'm also really busy with 2 of them. It's a really great work family balance right now. As you can see, I'm home. So I actually am extremely lucky that I have my summers off. Most people don't get that. But the industry itself is is pretty flexible that way. If you want to go to the next slide, I don't know if I can. Do I have control? No. So yeah, so there's my boys. This picture here, that's actually, I don't know if you guys probably don't know, your grandparents, parents might know, but the old show MASH, where there's like a big bubble helicopter, the whole front of the helicopter is like a big glass ball. So that's what I'm actually inside right there. So this would be like the controls and everything, all the instruments, and I'm sat on the seat. So this, everything we have doesn't fly. It's used for training purposes, but you will take it and strip everything apart. You get to start from the basics. We don't expect you to know anything. No maintenance background, no picking around in the garage with your dad or your mom, or you don't need to be, say, getting your hands dirty to learn how to do this type of thing, which I think most people kind of have that misconception that to be a mechanic or to be an engineer or to get involved in the trade, that you have to know your tools and you have to know what you're doing and you have to know how to change a tire and you have to know this. And that's not the case. We'll teach you and we help you. And it really is interesting to be in a field of aviation. There's lots of opportunities and it's interesting. It's cool. It's never boring. Next one. Yeah. Like I said, I grew up in Gander, so I've seen planes my whole life, flying above me. I've heard them my whole life. I actually thought about becoming a flight attendant, but I don't like vomit, so I was like, that's not, I can't do that. That is not for me. And I assumed that was going to be part of the job. And I looked at this, and I liked aviation. I liked the idea of it. I knew that I didn't really like heights, so I knew that I didn't really want to be a pilot, but I enjoyed being around them. And I liked, we go for test flights and I liked the excitement of it. So yeah, I looked at flight attendant. I looked at ATC because, like I said, I grew up in Gander, so NAV Canada is pretty predominant here. I spoke to a lot of people and tried to base my decision off that, along as what I felt like I wanted to do, and the hangar. If anybody has never been in a hangar before, I'd recommend trying to go for a tour to one of them because it is pretty cool. It's not your typical, I guess, garage type feel. Hangars are very clean and they're very well organized for the most part, and you just get to crawl around planes. So go to the next one. Yeah, so aircraft maintenance is obviously a mechanic type of job. So you are fixing and helping to fix airplane. So that's could be structural, so the wings, the body, your mechanical, so your engine and stuff like that. Like I said, I do what we call avionics, which is your instruments, your navigation, your wiring, all that type of stuff, all the electrical side of it. But there's a broad range of things that you can do once you get your basic training. So like over here on the side there, it's talking about like scheduled maintenance, repairs, troubleshooting. If any of you guys like puzzles and problem solving, troubleshooting is like that. So pilot comes and he says, this is wrong. Okay, now it's your job to find what is wrong and why is it wrong? And then you get to fix it. So it's very satisfying in that way. You find the problem, you fix it. Hopefully you didn't create it and you go from there. And maybe you did create it, that happens too. We're all human, but you work together. It's a lot of teamwork. It's not very often you're left on your own, which is also really helpful. You have each other to bounce off ideas, stuff like that, like engines, shops, quality management, tech. There's so many opportunities right now for people in this field. I feel like we blame everything on COVID, but post-COVID, especially, no one was flying. So during COVID, nobody flew, nobody wanted to fly. And now all of a sudden, everybody is dying to fly and leave and go places. And all these people in COVID who got laid off or retired, now they're left with a whole lot of airplanes that want to fly and not people to help them fly. So a lot of people think about pilots automatically, just like your car. So when you look at a car and you want to go from point A to point B, you're like, okay, well, who's going to drive me there? But what you really don't think about is, so who is going to make sure that that car can drive? And that is the mechanic. So that's us. So we are just an important factor as, say, the pilots and everything else. And right now, that's huge. So what is this, August? So in June, we just had a bunch of graduating students, and I'd say every single one of them had a job, if not multiple job offers. A lot of our students went to Air Jazz in Halifax, WestJet, PAL, and a couple went with helicopters. So, and that's really cool for them, right? They're all young adults starting their career, and they got to leave and go straight into an aviation world, where I guess someone will be taking them under their wing and teaching them. And yeah, it's just, they're very excited. All right, you can go to the next one. Benefits. So like I said, it can be challenging, but it's also really rewarding, especially when you do solve the problem. You do have people relying on you, of course, but it's a lot of teamwork, a lot of helpful, and I guess learning curves is a big thing too. You get to work with your hands. Our course is 50-50 shop and theory. So you're actually in a shop environment, so in a hangar for 50% of your course, which is amazing. The other 50%, we will be in classroom. But a lot of it, you learn better as you do, right? Like as you learn a lot more with your hands and hands-on experience. So that is really, really important for us. This picture you see right here, so this is actually called a mock panel. So the front of that panel looks like a cockpit. So it looks, this is a screen right here. These are two instruments. I'm moving my mouse and you can't see it. The two black circles, they're instruments. The big black square, that's like a screen. It almost looks like an iPad on the front. And then all those silver things on the side, they're radios. So if you were to look at that front on, it would look like almost like the dash of a car. So behind the scenes, all the wiring and stuff that you see, so that's all student built. So that's empty. Our students actually built the metal box you see. So they did that. So that would be, say, structural. So our structural students would make that. And then our avionics courses, they build the inside. So you make the wiring harnesses, you learn how it works, you test the equipment. So that could be like with a mic. So you pretend that you're a pilot and the other group is a co-pilot and you're going to talk back and forth to each other. Or you're going to be plane A and they're plane B. And you guys are talking back and you're communicating and watching each other on radar. And it's really cool to start a project from nothing. And after a certain amount of time, you have built this live working cockpit, essentially. So that's the type of thing that we teach you from the very, very basics. We know that majority of people don't spend their free time wiring things up. So we teach you expecting that everything is brand new. It can be overwhelming, but I feel like everybody is overwhelmed when you start something new, whether that is your first day of school or first day of job or anything like that. So working with your hands is great. Experience travel. you get to travel. Airplanes fly. So guess what? You're flying too. If things break, you're going to have to go fix it. So they want you available too. That doesn't mean that you constantly are on the road, because you're not. Unless you want to be, you can. You can be chasing helicopters around up in the northern territories, and you might love that. And there's people who love that. And they spend their summers fishing and hunting and living in camps and chasing helicopters. And that's where they're most happy. Or you could be home in your bed every night and working on an airplane that flies passengers from Gander to Deer Lake to St. John's. There's lots of opportunities. And like I said, travel perks, all that stuff. Yeah, it's exciting. You can go to the next one. So, to become a licensed aircraft maintenance engineer, you have to be 21. For the most part, that doesn't really come into factor, because if you're finishing high school, say around 18, you come do your schooling for 2 years, then you have to work for 2 years anyway. So the age doesn't really, it won't really alter you, unless for some reason you're finishing high school at like 16. So in order to become an aircraft maintenance engineer, you attend a post-secondary school, which for us in our province right now is the College of North Atlantic. Gander is the only campus that offers it. In Atlantic, it's only us and Halifax. Halifax does have a college who offers it, but they actually shut down for a couple of years. So right now, our students are kind of getting jobs ahead of them, because our students are being graduated and their students are all behind. So yeah, 2-year program. Within that 2-year program, everything is done in 2-week blocks. So most of you in school right now are probably focusing on subjects. So like you have in one day, you might have science, math, English, and social studies. In university, it could be like that too. So you're running to different classes. The way that our program works is that we focus on 2-week blocks. So for 2 weeks, you learn propellers. And then for 2 weeks, you learn engines. And then for 2 weeks, you learn navigation. And for the 2 years, that's how it works. It's all multiple choice exams. So say at the end of those 2 weeks, you do a multiple choice test. 70 is pass for us, not 50. I feel like that's the way most places are going right now, but 70 is a pass. So yeah, so you do that within the 2 years. There is some math and physics that you do as well. Nothing too heavy. It's usually a class a day, and then the rest of the time you're focused on the aviation side of it. So that's maintenance and avionics. So they're actually combined in the same program. And then once you graduate, you can kind of pick which route you want to go. Structures is totally different. Structures is only, and this is saying 1-year program, but structures is your typical 9 months. So you're September to June. It's a shorter program. It's only structural repair. So nothing to do with the engines or the wires. But both of them, so you can get your aircraft maintenance license, or you can get your aircraft structure license. So both of them, you kind of take the same route. Like I said, once you finish, you don't come back to school no more. You will write a CARS, stands for Canadian Aviation Regulations. So you write one exam to get your license, and then you're done. This here, that says logbook test. That's supposed to say logbook test. So you do fill out a logbook, which if you guys don't know what that is, it's essentially like a bulleted list of things that you do. So I changed a tire October 17th, 2023, and then you get someone to sign it off for you. So it's not too bad. Okay, you can go to the next one. Yeah. So I talked about school. So for us, like it's College of North Atlantic, is what is in our province. BCIT is in BC. So if you're going to go to BC, you can do that too. That's probably two of the biggest ones. ICS course is an online course. It's not, you can do it if you want, but you don't really get the hands-on that you do in person. On the job training, so summer apprentice jobs. So right now, we have 2 summer students at Cougar Helicopters, and some of them are with the Water Bombers, and some of them are with, believe we have one at PAL as well. So that's also very exciting. You do school for your first year, and then you get on a job with working in the industry. I will bring up on the bottom here, it talks about Elevate. So Elevate is a aviation, it's essentially a company to get females interested in aviation. So similar to something like this, we're getting girls interested in STEM and showing them different opportunities and what's available. Elevate is throughout Canada, so it's national. And once a year, they go to every province and they host a seminar. There's one in St. John's and one in Gander this past March. And they just kind of highlight different jobs in aviation, not aircraft maintenance related. Not just that, I should say, but that, pilots, Nav Canada, dispatchers, anything that is to do with aviation, if that's something that you feel like you're interested in. They do have a Facebook page, and yeah, it's cool. It's good promotional stuff, and it shows you what's available and what's around, and they would definitely really, really helpful if finding mentors and things like that. I don't know if anybody has any questions. It feels like I'm just rambling.
You're doing fantastic. I mean, I can pepper you with a few questions right now. I was just kind of thinking about as you went through the possibilities, the structures one, the structures, if I can figure out how to go back instead of forward. Aircraft structures, separate 1-year program. So you can choose the 2-year or the 1-year there. Is that
Yeah.
how I'm reading that? And does anyone do both programs, or would that be?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
they do.
usually once a year, we'll get 1 or 2 people do both. Yeah.
Gotcha.
And it's really by choice. Like if they do one program and they're really, really interested in it, then they'll just continue. They'll apply for the other one.
So certainly not simultaneously. It's one after the other.
Yeah.
Then.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it would be 3 years, say, total if you wanted to do that.
And in terms of, so you have these 2 major schools in, well, here in Gander and then in BC. Would you have to do, could you go for one school and then the other for the other program, or you would do all at one school?
Yeah. You might possibly get some of it transferred over, but typically no, because everybody, so where that says Transport Canada approved, so we would make our curriculum and then they would approve it. So like BCIT, they make their curriculum and Transport approves it, but it doesn't mean it matches ours.
Gotcha. And then at the end of the program, you're nationally certified, so you could work anywhere in Canada?
Yeah.
Is there an international certification you can go after, or?
So once you finish, so just like I'm sure, I don't know, maybe some people watch Mayday or in movies and stuff, you hear of like FAA, which is the Federal Aviation Authority. So that's the US. Ours is CARS. Europe is EASA, which is European Aviation Standards Association. And so everywhere has kind of like, I don't know what to call it, their rule book, say. So our rule book is different than the FAA. So it's different than the US. And EASA is different as well. So if you want to be trained there, you would essentially have to write their exams on their rules and regulations and work on their aircraft. So I don't really know how to explain it. So it's like when if an airplane comes to land, you ever see how there's like numbers on the tail? There's always numbers or letters on the tail. So that's their registration. So it's kind of like a serial number to an airplane. So you could have two airplanes be the exact same, but one is Canadian and one's European. If I can fix this one, that doesn't mean I can touch this one because the registration is different. But you can, yeah. Like have we've had people go over to Ireland and stuff and tackle the EASA exams to get their European license. So you can do that route too. Typically, you would work in Canada for a little bit, get your Canadian license, and then say go abroad and do that. But you can definitely do it. Yep.
So you'd essentially challenge the exam there. You wouldn't have to do a 2-year program in Europe just as long as you pass their exam.
Yeah. Yeah. As long as you pass the exam, and there is some like work that you'd have to work on a say a European aircraft for a certain period of time. But no, you wouldn't have to go to school again.
You've honestly done a fantastic job at answering most of my questions that I kind of had like in advance. But I was also thinking you talked about a little bit about the labor market, how all of your students have multiple job offers. Two things there. On one hand, I hear that Nova Scotia's program wasn't operating. So do you think that has played into it, or has this been kind of consistent? Like, are you going to worry that in 5 years' time, your students might not have the same job opportunities? But then on the other hand, I'll put this in as almost a saving grace is I'm hearing a lot about Stephenville getting its airport back up and running. So is that labor market just booming anyway?
Um, so up until COVID, Nova Scotia College was always operating. So we always were not competing because I feel like that's not the right word to say, but we were always running programs the same time up until COVID for the past like 30 years. And our students were still able to get jobs fairly easily. It also depends on, do you want to leave the island or do you want to stay around? Because if you want to stay on the island, there's still options, but fewer options than if you want to leave. So some of our big hiring people would be, say, PAL, hires a lot. Cougar, in Gander, we have search and rescue. So the Cormorant helicopters, they've been hiring. There's Evis Air, and then the government, so the water bombers or the medevacs. There's also every time I've driven on the highway lately, I've seen them. So you guys, but the small little helicopters that have been darting around, sometimes you see them carrying like poles and stuff like that. So there's Newfoundland helicopters that some people don't even know about. So they're smaller operation. Canadian helicopters. They also have a base, I believe. There's Canadian Coast Guard got a base at Major's Path in St. John's. Like there's so many little kind of avenues that a lot of people, I guess, don't really realize. But no, I got to say this year is probably the first year in a long time that our students have had multiple offers. For the most part, they were picking and choosing where they wanted to go. And that hasn't happened in a while, but COVID kind of comes into play with that too. But I don't really think Nova Scotia would affect that too much. And our students are the only students who graduate with the chance to be in this one here. It says an M1, M2, or avionics, to be either or. So some of the other colleges like Nova Scotia, they either do only maintenance or only avionics, and ours are combined into both. So a lot of employers really like that because the training has been really broad. Like we may focus a little bit more on one or the other, but all of our students leave the school comfortable enough to know what each section is and what each area is. So we found lately that employers actually tend to come to us. Not very often have we had to reach out. We usually get emails from employers, say starting probably February, looking for students. So Jazz actually flew here to Gander in February, I believe, and set up in a classroom and did interviews for 2 days straight. They had a sign up sheet on the door, and students signed up with the time they wanted to interview, and it was done. So like that's great, and that has been happening. Pal does that as well. Pal drives out and have done that too, which is great to do a program. And when you leave, like when our students were graduates, sorry, you can probably hear my dog. When our students were graduating, like they had their plane ticket or they had their ferry ticket bought or they had their apartment settled away or they knew what they were doing and where they were going. And it was really great that they had a game plan with their future in mind. And yeah, they were just really excited and it was really nice to see.
Fantastic. And fantastic for the students too to just get the taste of everything and then know, hopefully know at the end what they prefer to do. And if
Yeah.
they do have the choice of jobs, then to actually be able to pursue the one that suits them best.
Yeah. And I guess one thing that COVID did kind of help in is a lot of these jobs like WestJet or Canada who are further away, the interviews may not be easy to do as a student to fly somewhere or to drop off a resume. But one thing COVID did help with was things like this. So we had a lot of students being like, can I leave for a half hour? I got a Zoom interview at 1:30. And we were like, yeah, perfect. So that was really helpful because these larger companies were getting resumes and then could put a face to a name because they were interacting this way and it wasn't just well, I emailed a resume and I haven't heard back. So that's been really great, especially because we do live on an island. um, so that has been one plus of COVID is that all these virtual interviews and stuff have been really, I guess, beneficial for them and helpful for them.
Absolutely. I'm not quite sure how many slides you have left. I can't quite see, but is there anything else you wanted to do out of your presentation or should I go to just more questions
And
that I have? I don't have any student questions at the moment.
that's okay. Um, no, not really, other than I guess that is just not, no job is the same. Like I personally, I've worked on the airline side. So I've done the night shifts, I've done the day shifts. I worked, like I said, I did work at Cougar Helicopters. So I've been outside in the cold and wind and underneath rotor heads. And I've been outside on the beautiful sunny days walking around. I've been flying up in the air doing test flights and sightseeing. And it's now I work Monday to Friday and I'm off every holiday and every summer. So there's a lot of different opportunities you can have. I think girls especially get overwhelmed at the maintenance term or the unknown side of it. So you think of a garage or something like that, and generally it is filled with men. But it's kind of taken, I shouldn't say turn in the other direction, but um, it's becoming the norm now to have more girls around. And like I said, we teach from nothing. We don't expect you to have any prior knowledge. We know that like airplanes and helicopters are not cars. You didn't grow up riding an airplane or riding a helicopter. And if you did, the most that you've seen was the back when you were watching a movie or looking out the window. So we take all that into consideration and just don't be overwhelmed at that type of stuff. And if you ever have the opportunity to be around it. If you know someone who works in the industry, or you ever want to ask me or reach out, definitely do it. Do it. Get all the information you can.
Goes back to those mentors, and I'll certainly put out a link to Elevate as well for any of the students that you've inspired today. And I think you even said that these high school students they're able to, if they happen to be passing by Gander, can they come poke around your shop
Yeah,
during, oh yeah, perfect.
yeah, for sure.
Lots of opportunities to just like get a taste for it and see whether this really is something that they want to pursue.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And a lot of people don't even realize that we have, I guess, a hangar really, for there. Like we run our airplanes, we have a like a tarmac out back where you do your engine runs, and we teach you how to move an airplane and how to park an airplane. And it's, yeah, it is really pretty interesting.
So the students drive the planes on the ground. They don't fly the planes,
No,
do they? No. Do
no.
you have many students that become pilots?
Um, Usually the other way around. So we usually get some pilots actually. There's usually in a group. There's usually one pilot, roughly about one pilot in a group.
That's
But
really
I don't
neat.
know of any who usually do the other, who leave and do go and do
Awesome. But you've got people flying you around anyway. You get to know the pilots.
Yeah. Yeah. No.
Perfect. I don't know if there's anything else. I think I can stop sharing this because I think that's the end. Maybe. Yes, it is. Okay. And we do only just have a few minutes left, really. So if there was anything that we missed, then now's the time to bring it up. But another question that did occur to me though is what is your average class size? And what you did say that there's, obviously a lot of hands-on, 50-50 in the workshop versus a classroom. And you said multiple choice exams every 2 weeks, exam at the end. But what's your kind of student to instructor ratio?
So the intake is 2 classes, and the max you can have in one class is 20. And we also have in assistants as well. So it's usually roughly a 1/8-10, which is really good. So it's a lot of say one-on-one helping and stuff. You'll never be on your own in the shop or anything like that. There's always one of us with you. You do individual and group projects. But it's all done in, like, you can't take home a piece of metal and fix it. So it's all done on campus, which is also really great. It's not a whole lot of take home work other than studying, of course. But yeah, so we take a max of 20. We usually end up losing a few, which is typical. So yeah, it's usually say 16, 15, 16. Good
Is
class.
there a wait list to get into the program right now?
Right now, I don't believe so. If it is, I think it's a small one.
Okay.
Um,
And I know some CNA programs you can apply really early, like years in advance. Is
yeah.
that something that's true? Yeah.
There is for some of them now. I found a lot of those programs are medical. It tends to be the medical programs that have a massive wait list like that, but ours isn't too bad.
Okay. But if they were in grade 10 there now, and they knew this is for me, you've sold me, can they apply for 2 years' time?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, they can send it, and then it's just conditional on their grades.
Nice.
They could apply.
And I I feel like maybe perhaps most students kind of are aware of Gander very generally, but to look at moving to Gander is a bit of a move for a lot of us. What does Gander look and feel like? Is there dorms? Do they go rent apartments? Is there a social scene?
So we actually get a lot of international students as well. So the Gander school itself is aircraft, automotive, hairstyling, and nursing right now, actually. And some like transition courses. So we do get a lot of international students. So we have a lot of, I don't want to say tours, orientation is a good word. So we do have a lot of orientation once you get here. The first like week is figuring everything out. They rent a bus and they'll do a little tour of Gander. We don't have dorms, so it's mostly apartments. There is an apartment building directly across street. So a lot of students do rent there. They do these like 1, 2, and 3 bedroom apartments. So a lot of students rent there and then they walk. If not, there's tons of apartment buildings here or basement apartments. We do have like landlords who contact the college, and we have a list of rentals that we would recommend to students. So we pass that on for anyone who's looking. Like I said, because we get international students as well, we're used to helping a broad range. So we're used to helping, say, little Susie in Clarenville and little Timmy from India. So we'll help you as best as we can. And even though Gander is pretty central and most people have heard of Gander, that doesn't mean you've been here. When it comes to social, we do have a base here as well, a Canadian Forces base. So they have a really nice recreation center with gym and a pool, plus our own normal like arts and culture center, pool, the different like sports leagues and stuff like that to get involved with. There's student council, so they help to do things with the school, to plan social events and get-togethers and stuff like that. Like I said, because your class is pretty small as well, I find now most classes, they have their own group chat. They're all buddies. You're at that point considered an adult, so you take care of each other and they all become close. And I find that is really good with the small classes.
I just thought of one last question as we are at the end of our hour here there now. Does the program start again every year, like where it's a 2-year program? So you do have people in their second year basically,
Yeah.
but you're probably not in fact in the same classes with them, but they're just on campus.
So you start your year in September and you stay with that class your entire 2 years.
And does it start every September, or is there a class starting January?
No, only in September.
Perfect. Well, this has been so very informative. It's so great to actually talk to an instructor, because we of course have all these wonderful role models, but they can only tell us about their experience. And while your own experience is fascinating, it's great to kind of have that broader view too of like, these are all of the things that you could do, and this is the very details about the program that you would do. So thank you so very much, Melissa, for joining us today, and have a great rest of summer.
Thanks. Hopefully the weather changes.
Yeah, it's a little chilly today.
It is, yeah.
We'll just fly somewhere warmer now.
I hope so, yeah. I hope so. All right, thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much again to Melissa Barton, Avionics Instructor at CNA, Aircraft Maintenance Engineering and Technician Program in Gander, for today's session. If you would like to put your name in for a draw to win a hoodie, then please do scan this QR code. You will have a choice between the white hoodie with the colored logo and the black hoodie with the white logo. It's a simple contact information form, and I hope you will join us again in approximately 2 weeks' time to talk to an astronaut live on the International Space Station. Watch our social medias for details on the date and time. Have a wonderful day.